An Exorcist Tells His Story by Gabriel Amort. Christ's centrality tells us that we can be saved only in His name. It is only in His name that we can win and free ourselves from the enemy of our salvation, Satan. At the end of the most difficult exorcisms, when I am confronted with total demonic possession, I pray the Christological hymn of letter of Paul to the Philippians, chapter 2, verses 6 to 11. Satan was the most perfect being created by hands of God. His God-given authority and superiority over the other angels are recognized by all. So he thought that he had the same authority over everything that God was creating. Satan tried to understand all of creation, but could not, because all the plan of creation was oriented towards Christ. God never rejects His creatures. Therefore, even though they broke with God, Satan and his angels maintained their power and rank, thrones, dominions, principalities, powers, and so on, even if they used them for evil purposes. If God gave Satan a free hand, no man would be left alive. Since Satan cannot kill us, he tries to make us into his followers in opposition to God, just as he is in opposition to God. Between the first coming of Christ and the parousia, the second triumphal coming of Christ as judge, the devil tries to entice as many people as possible to his side. The battle against the evil spirits was joined from the very origins of the world and will continue until the last day, as the Lord has attested. How does the evil oppose God and our Savior? By claiming for himself the adoration due to God and by mimicking Christian institutions. Therefore, he is anti-Christ and anti-church. Satan uses the idolatry of sex, which reduces the human body to an instrument of sin against the incarnation of the world who redeemed man by becoming man. Satan uses his churches, his cult, his devotees, often consecrated through a pact of blood, his adorers, the followers of his promises, to mimic the worship due to God. Satan gives specific powers to his followers for the destruction of body and soul. Just as it would be wrong to deny the existence of Satan, it is also wrong to accept the prevalent opinion that there are spiritual beings that are not mentioned in the Bible. These are the invention of spiritists, of followers of the occult, of those who espouse reincarnation, or of those who believe in wandering souls. There are no good spirits other than angels. There are no evil spirits other than demons. The souls of those who die go immediately to heaven or to hell or to purgatory. The souls of the dead who are present in living bodies to torture them are none other than demons. God allows a soul to return to earth only in very rare, exceptional cases, but we recognize that the subject is still full of unknowns. Souls who are possessed by the devil. Some people marvel of the ability of demons to tempt man and even to own the body, but they can never take the soul unless man freely gives it to them through possession and oppression. During a May 24, 1987 visit to the sanctuary of St. Michael the Archangel, John Paul II said, "The battle against the devil, which is the principal task of St. Michael the Archangel, is still being fought today because the devil is still alive and active in the world. The evil that surrounds us today, the disorders that plague our society, man's inconsistency and brokenness, not only the result of original sin, but also the result of Satan's pervasive and dark action. To a demon, leaving the body of a person and sinking into hell is an irrevocable death sentence. That is why the demon fights it to the last. However, his eternal pain will increase proportionately to the suffering he caused on earth. What harm can the devil cause to the living? 1. Ordinary activity. This is temptation, which is the most common activity of the demons, and it is directed against all men. First, external physical pain caused by Satan. We know of this from many lives of the saints. We know that St. Paul of the Cross, the Cure of Ars, Padre Pio, and many others were beaten, flogged, and pummeled by demons. Second, demonic possession. This occurs when Satan takes full possession of the body, not the soul. He speaks and acts without the knowledge or consent of the victim, who therefore is morally blameless. It is the grievous and most spectacular form of demonic afflictions, and it attracts the attention of producers of movies such as The Exorcist. Some of the signs of possession include speaking in tongues, extraordinary strength, and revealing the unknown. Third, diabolical oppression. Symptoms vary from a very serious to a mild illness. There is no possession, loss of consciousness, or involuntary action and word. The Bible gives us many examples of oppression. One of them is Job. He was not possessed, but he lost his children, his goods, and his health. We exorcists run into a great number of people who have been struck by the devil in their health, jobs, or relationship. Fourth, diabolic obsession. Symptoms include sudden attack, at times ongoing, of obsessive thoughts, sometimes even rationally absurd, but of such nature that the victim is unable to free himself. Therefore, the obsessed person lives in a perpetual state of prostration, desperation, and attempts at suicide. Fifth, diabolic infestation. Infestation affects houses, things, or animals. Sixth, diabolical subjugation or dependence. People fall into this form of evil when they voluntarily submit to Satan. The two most common forms of dependence are the blood pact with the devil and the consecration to Satan. In all cases, when there is no possession, the usual means to obtain grace should be sufficient. These means are prayer, the sacraments, almsgiving, leading a Christian life, pardoning offenses, and soliciting the aid of our Lord, Mary, the saints, and the angels. We know the name of the prince of the angels, Saint Michael. There is a hierarchy among the angels based on love, which is guided by the divine intellect in whose will we find our peace. We also know the names of two other archangels, Gabriel and Raphael. The Apocrypha add a fourth name, Uriel. Sacred scriptures divides the angels into 9 choirs, dominions, powers, thrones, principalities, virtues, angels, archangels, cherubim, and seraphim. Only an authorized priest, besides the exorcist bishop himself, can claim the title of exorcist. Today, this title is abused. Many, both priests and lay people, claim to be exorcists when they are not, and many claim to perform exorcism while at best they simply intone prayers of deliverance, and at worst they practice witchcraft. There are only 2 types of exorcism: the sacrament of baptism, which is the only form of simple exorcism, and the sacramental reserved to exorcists, which is called solemn exorcism. Before beginning, the exorcist questions the individual himself or his relatives to ascertain if the exorcism is necessary. But it is also true that only through the exorcism itself can we determine with certainty whether there is a satanic influence. Exorcism first and foremost purpose is diagnostic. The specific end of exorcism is the liberation from evil presence or ailments. It is also very important to recognize the signs that occur before an exorcism, during an exorcism, and after an exorcism, and the development of signs during the course of the exorcism. How silly it is to wait to perform an exorcism until we are certain of satanic possession. The three signs that the ritual sites are symptoms of satanic possession are talking in unknown languages. It is my significant experience and that of all other exorcists whom I question that these signs always surface during an exorcism, never before. Exorcism, in addition to diagnosing, aim at healing the patient by freeing him from demonic influences. A long and difficult journey starts here. How long does it take to free someone from demons? This is a question that has no answer. He who frees is the Lord. He acts with divine freedom, even though he must surely listen to prayers, especially if offered through the intercession of the church. Generally, we can say that the time factor is proportionate to the initial strength of the diabolical possession and the length of time before seeking exorcism. This process took place over a period of many years, and the evil influence had taken deep root. The first exorcism speaks of uprooting and putting to flight the devil, and rightly so. Situations like this, one require many sessions, often lasting many years, and deliverance is not always possible. I repeat, the time element belongs to God. Even with all these graces, the efficacy of exorcism forces much humility on the exorcist, precisely because he is able to experience firsthand that he is nothing and he who acts is God. The first factor that influences the increase of evil influence is Western consumerism. The majority of people have lost their faith due to materialistic and hedonistic lifestyle. A well-known fact that where religion regresses, superstition progresses. How can we fall prey to extraordinary satanic activity? One, with God's permission. Nothing happens without God's permission. It is also absolutely clear that God does not wish evil for anyone, but He allows it when it is our will, since He created us with completely free will, and He can use everything, even evil, for our own good. Second, when we are subjected to an evil spell. Evil spell is causing the suffering of others through the intervention of the devil. This intervention can take many different forms: binding, the evil eye, a curse. Sorcery is also the most frequent cause that we encounter in those who are struck by possession or other evil influences. Some may be surprised that God allowed this sort of evil to happen. God created us free, and He never rejects His creatures, not even the most perverted. At the end, He rewards everyone according to his just deserts, because everyone will be judged according to his actions. Fourth, a grieved and hardened state of sin. Here we are addressing the cause that today, unfortunately, is on the increase, with a resulting increase in the numbers of people who are victims of the devil. The true cause is always a lack of faith. As lack of faith increases, so does superstition. It is almost a mathematically reality. Fourth, association with evil people and places. A very common example of associating with warlocks or witch doctor is this: someone who is the victim of a stubborn illness cannot find any remedy. Someone else experiences all sorts of misfortune and believes that it is due to an evil influence. In current terminology, white magic means to take away a spell. Black magic means to cast a spell. In reality, as Father Candido never ceased to repeat, there is no such thing as white and black magic. There is only black magic. Satan is much more enraged when we take souls away from him through confession than when we take away bodies through exorcism. In fact, we cause the devil even greater rage by preaching, because faith sprouts from the Word of God. Therefore, a priest was the courage to preach and hear confessions should not be afraid to exorcise. Therefore, one begins by studying the symptoms that are presented by the person or his relatives, as well as their possible cause. One begins with the physical symptoms. The two areas most commonly affected by evil influences are the head and the stomach. In addition to headaches that are severe and unresponsive to prescription, symptoms include a sudden inability to learn. In particular, young people who never had trouble at school all of a sudden cannot study anymore, and their ability to concentrate disappear. Ability to speak or understand unknown languages perfectly, to know the hidden and the remote, or to demonstrate a superhuman physical strength. A typical symptoms of evil influence is an aversion to the sacred. Some suddenly blasphemes, open and act violently against sacred images. The other area that is commonly affected by evil influence is the neck of the stomach, immediately under the sternum. There we find acute and piercing pains for which no cure can be found. If the pain travels now to the entire stomach, then to the kidneys, later to the ovaries, and so on, defying the understanding and remedies of medicine, it is a common indication of evil influence. We can state that one of the determining factors in the recognition of diabolic possession is the inefficacy of medicines, while blessing proves very efficacious. A person possessed by the demons cannot be immobilized. He can even break iron chains, as the man from Gerasa did in the Gospel. Father Kadir told me of a thin, apparently weak girl who had to be subdued by 4 strong men during exorcisms. She broke every bond, even some heavily littered straps with which they tried to tie her down. Once, when she was tied with strong ropes to an iron bed, she broke some of the iron rods and folded others at a right angle. Many times the patient and his relatives, if the entire family is struck, hear strange noises, footsteps in the hallway, door opening and closing, objects that disappear and reappear in the most unlikely places, and banging against furnitures and walls. The pillow or mattress of the affected persons was opened, and there were found the most interesting objects, such as colored threads, tufts of hair, tresses, wooden or iron slivers, rosaries or ribbons tied with the tightest of knots, puppets, animal shapes, blood clots, or feebles. These are certain proof of sorcery. Exorcism can last a few minutes or many hours. Experience taught us that the using of the oil of catechumens while saying "Sit dominis te signo famulus tuos monitus" is very effective. We have noticed that the demon is very sensitive to the 5 senses, and mostly through the eyes. Therefore, we, Father Candido and his apprentices, hold 2 fingers on the eyes and raise the eyelids at the specific times during the prayers. Almost always, in cases of evil presence, the eyes look completely white. The position of the pupils indicates the type of demons and troubles that are present. The demons are very wary of talking. They must be forced to speak, and do so only in the most severe of cases, those of true and complete possession. When demons are voluntarily chatty, it is a trick to distract the exorcist from his concentration and to avoid answering useful questions when they are interrogated. Never ask useless questions or out of curiosity. We must ask for the name, whether there are other demons and how many, when and how the evil one entered the particular body, and when he will leave. During an exorcism, the evil one, if he is present, may emerge in slow stages or with sudden explosion. Whether it is oppression, obsession, or possession, whether evil is slight or deeply rooted, it is difficult to find texts that make clear distinction. If a person during an exorcism enters completely into a trance, it is the demon who speaks through his mouth. If he moves, it is the demon who moves using his limbs. And if at the end of the exorcism the person does not remember anything, we have a case of diabolical possession. That is, the demon is inside the individual and from time to time acts through the body of the possessed. If during an exorcism some reaction of the patient reveals a demonic attack, but consciousness remains as well as some vague memory of words and actions, then we are in the presence of diabolical oppression. Diabolical obsession. It consists of uncontrollable evil thoughts that torment an individual, especially at night or sometimes always. In all cases, the cure is the same: prayer, fasting, the sacraments, a Christian life, charity, and exorcism. Demons tend to attack man in 5 areas. The 5 areas are the following: health, business, affections, enjoyment of life, and desire for death. Health. The evil one has the power to cause physical and mental illness. I have already mentioned that the 2 most common affected areas are the head and the stomach. Usually, the sickness is persistent. Include plague like growths, stab wounds, and bruises. The ritual suggests blessing the affected areas with the sign of the cross and sprinkling them with holy water. Second, affections. The evil one can cause unrestrained animosities, especially towards those who loves us the most. He destroys marriages, breaks up engagement. He fosters streaming fights in families where everyone truly loves one another, and all is for futile reasons. Satan also ruins friendship through his intervention. The victim feels unwelcome everywhere, avoided by everyone, ending in a desire for isolation. Then there follows a conviction of total lack of love and understanding, a complete affective void that makes marriage an impossibility. Third, business. Impossibility to find work, even when it seems that a job offer is certain, for improbable, even absurd motives. The victim may finally have found a job, but leaves it for no apparent reason and then searches for another job, but either does not go to the interview or leaves the new job as well, citing the same futile motives. Fourth, enjoyment of life. Logically, physical illnesses, affective isolation, and economic bankruptcy brings about such pessimism that life is in only in a negative way. Fifth, desire for death. This is the final goal of the evil enemy, to bring us to despair and suicide. The length of time required for exorcism is unpredictable. The active cooperation of the affected individual is very important. Nevertheless, even with the greatest collaboration, at times we can achieve only some improvement and not complete liberation. Diabolical possession is not a contagious disease, neither for the relatives nor for those who witness it, not for the places in which exorcisms are held. The presence of anyone who is possessed and exorcisms practiced on them have no consequence on building or on those who live in them. We must instead fear sin. A hardened sinner, a blasphemer, can damage his family, his workplace, and everywhere he goes habitually. As for the mother, it required several months of weekly exorcism. 2 of the demons left fairly quickly. The third proved more obstinate and required 3 years of weekly exorcism before he left. Her eyes were entirely white, and her pupils were barely discernible at the lower part of her eyes. She let out a sarcastic laugh. I barely had the time to think that I was dealing with Satan when I heard myself addressed thus, "I am Satan." Little by little, Marcella intensified her prayer, started receiving communion and praying the rosary daily, and went to confession weekly. Confession is stronger than an exorcism. She was healed after only 2 years. He alternate periods of activity, usually called moments of crisis, with unpredictable periods of rest. The demon's behavior. 1. Prior to discovery. Demonic possession causes physical and mental disturbances. Therefore, the possessed is usually under a doctor's care, and nobody suspects the true nature of the problems. Often doctors try to cure the symptoms for a lengthy period and try many drugs, always with very limited result. Commonly, the patient goes from doctor to doctor, accusing them of incompetence. Mental symptoms are the hardest to cure. Many times the specialists find nothing wrong, although this also happens often with physical illness, and often the family accuses the possessed individual of imagining his problems. This is one of the heaviest crosses to bear. For these patients, they are neither understood nor believed. Almost always, after fruitlessly searching for help from official medicine, these individuals knock at the door of healers, or worse, sorcerers, seers, and witch doctors. In this manner, the problem increases. Normally, anyone who comes to the exorcist following a friend's suggestion, very rarely a priest's advice, has already knocked at every doctor's door and is thoroughly skeptical. Many times he has tried sorcerers and warlocks. Often an inexcusable lack of ecclesiastical care in his field is added to the lack of faith or the lack of practice in the faith of these individuals. The result is understandable delay in turning to the exorcist. We must remember that even in the case of complete possession, that is, in cases when the demon is one talking and acting using the victim's body, the demon does not act consistently. He alternates periods of activity, usually called moments of crisis, with unpredictable periods of rest. In this manner, with few exemptions, the person is able to function and hold a job or go to school in seemingly normal manner. The person alone knows the tremendous efforts that the performance of this task requires. Second, during exorcism, at the beginning, the demon tries his best to remain undetected, or at least to hide the seriousness of his position, even if he is not always successful. At times, he is forced by the strength of the exorcism to reveal his presence at the first prayer. Other times, more sessions are required before he is discovered. The demon reacts in various manners to prayers and injunctions. Many times he tries to appear indifferent. In reality, he suffers and continues to suffer increasingly until liberation is achieved. Any reaction is limited to the eyes. They harm themselves. Others wail, especially if a stool is pressed to the affected parts of their body, or if they are blessed with the signs of the cross or with holy water. Very few are violent. Demons are very reluctant to speak. The first thing that must be asked is the name. Reluctant to reveal himself, revealing himself is a defeat. Then we command the evil one to tell how many demons are present in a particular body. This can be many or few, but there is always one chief, and he is always the first to be named. When the demons has a biblical name or one given in tradition, for example, Satan, Beelzebub, Lucifer, Sibulun, Meridians, Asmodeus, we are dealing with heavyweights tougher to defeat. When several demons are present, the chief is always the last to leave. The strength of possession is manifested also from the reaction of the demon to holy names. One does not and cannot say those names. He substitutes expression such as he, referring to God or Jesus, or she, referring to Our Lady. Other times he says your boss or your lady to indicate Jesus or Mary. If the possession is very strong and the demon is high-ranking, I repeat that demons keep the rank that they held when they were angels, such as thrones, principalities, or dominions. Then it is possible for him to say the name of God and Mary, always followed by horrible blasphemies. It is a false belief. Demons are reluctant to speak, and when they talk, they say silly things to distract the exorcist and escape his questions. Another time, the demons disclose sins to discourage the exorcist. Trying to discourage the exorcist, the demon said, "Can't you see that you are wasting your time? This one never prays. He goes around with and does," and there followed a long list of ugly sins. Let us not forget that the demon is the prince of lies. He freely accuses one person or another to foster suspicion and enmity. Generally, questioning the demon is not of great importance. For instance, often when the demon sees he is losing strength, he gives one date as the day of his departure, but then lingers on. In cases of strong possession, the demon might speak voluntarily to discourage the exorcist. Many times I was told, "You cannot do anything against me. This is my home. I am happy here, and here I will stay. You are wasting your time." Other times I was threatened, "I will eat your heart. Tonight I will frighten you so much that you will not be able to close your eyes. I will come into your bed like a snake. I will throw you out of bed." Then, confronted with my answers, he would fall silent. For instance, when I say, "I am enveloped within the mantle of Our Lady, what can you do to me?" Or, "The Archangel Gabriel is my protector, try and fight him." Or, "My guardian angel watches over me so that I won't be touched. You cannot harm me." The demon remains silent. The exorcist is always able to find a particular weak spot. Some demons cannot bear to have the signs of the cross traced with a stole on aching part of the body. Some cannot stand on a puff of breath on the face. Others resist with all their strength against blessing with holy water. Then there are certain sentences within the prayers of exorcism to which the demons react with violence or by losing strength. The exorcist also is able to determine when it is useless to go any further. Third, nearing the exit of the demon. This is a delicate and difficult moment which could also take a long time. Sometimes the demon indicates that he has lost strength, but in another circumstance, he tries to launch the last attacks. For a demon to leave a body and go back to hell, where he is almost always condemned, meant to die forever and to lose any ability to molest people actively. He expresses this desperation during exorcism with words such as these: "I am dying, I am dying, I can't take it any longer. Enough, you are killing me. You are murderers, hangmen. All priests are murderers." And similar sentences, whereas at the beginning of the exorcism he would say, "You cannot do anything to me." Now he says, "You are killing me, you have won." At the beginning he would say that he would never leave because he was perfectly happy in a particular body. Now he claims he feels ill and wants to leave. It is a fact that every exorcism is like hitting the demon with a bat. He suffers greatly. At the same time, he also causes pains and weakness to the person he possesses. He even admits that he is better off in hell than during an exorcism. One person close to liberation, the demons openly told him, "Do you think that I would live if this were not worse than the suffering of hell?" Exorcism had become truly unbearable to him. Fourth, after liberation, it is very important not to decrease prayer. The reception of sacraments and living a Christian life, an occasional exorcism is also beneficial because it is not unusual for the demon to repeat this attack. Trying to come back, it is well not to give him any offerings. We may call this a period of gathering strength to safeguard a successful liberation. What are the effects of exorcism? If no improvement is noted for several days and no signs of negativities appear during the exorcism, it generally means that the source of the problem is not of demonic origin. The cooperation of the patient is fundamental for success. Exorcism is 2% of the cure. Exorcism is 10% of the cure. The remaining 90% is the responsibility of the individual. Need for much prayer, frequently reception of the sacraments, living a life according to the gospel, using the sacramentals like exorcised water, salt, and oil. It also means asking others to pray for a cure. The prayer of the entire family, parish or religious communities, prayer groups, and so on. Pilgrimages and charitable works are also useful. One of the most effective tools against evil is one of the hardest gospel precepts: forgive your enemies. Demons have the power to provoke sickness. The hardest to cure are the victims of the most powerful spells. Other tough cases involve spells that are cast on entire families to destroy them. Who is the most afflicted? Without a doubt, it is the young. This is because the young lack faith and ideals. Therefore, they are those most exposed to disastrous experiences. Even children are very vulnerable, not because of personal fault, but because of their weakness. Many times when we exorcise an adult, we discover that demonic presence can be traced to early childhood, or even worse, to the moment of birth, or even to their gestation. The biggest obstacle to healing is the refusal to convert from practicing atheism to a life of faith, or from a life of sin to a life of grace. He will also endeavor to debilitate and weaken the demon with every tool available to him. The ritual advises the exorcist to insist on the blessing that caused the demon to react. This changes from person to person and from time to time. Some cannot stand being sprinkled with holy water. Others become exasperated if we blow on them. Others cannot bear the smell of incense. Therefore, it is beneficial to use it. Still others experience pain when the organ plays and at the sound of sacred music and Gregorian chant. These are all helpful means whose efficacy I have experienced firsthand. How does the demon behave as the exorcism progresses? The demon suffers and causes suffering. The pain that he experiences during an exorcism is unimaginable for us. One day, Father Kadir asked a demon if there is fire in hell. A fire that burns hot. The demon answered, "If you knew what fire you are for me, you would not ask me this question." Obviously, we are not talking about material fire, which is caused by flammable material. We witness how the demon burns when he comes in contact with sacred items such as crucifixes, reliquaries, and holy water. I have also heard demons tell me many times that they suffer more during exorcism than in hell. When I ask, "Why don't you go to hell then?" they answer, "Because we are only interested in making this person suffer." Even the name of the demons, as in the case of angels, tell us their function. The most important demons have biblical names, or names transmitted to us by tradition. Satan or Beelzebub, Lucifer, Asmodeus, Meridian, Sibulon. Other names more clearly tell us the purpose of their actions: destruction, perdition, ruin, or they indicate individual evils: insomnia, terror, discord, envy, jealousy, sloth. In the majority of cases, when they leave a soul, they are destined to go to hell. At times, they are freed in the desert.